Think for a moment. Imagine waking up every day knowing that a significant part of your frustration, exhaustion, and even self-doubt does not come from your lack of intelligence, but from constantly having to deal with people who do not think, reflect, or reason at the same level you do. Imagine realizing that many of your conflicts are not caused by malice, but by something far more dangerous: stupidity combined with confidence. Today we are going to explore a perspective that is uncomfortable, provocative, and deeply liberating. And I promise you this: the final insight of this journey will be the most important and powerful of all, capable of changing how you see people, society, and yourself. Arthur Schopenhauer, one of the most penetrating and pessimistic philosophers of human nature, did not believe stupidity was merely a lack of intelligence. For him, it was a force, a structural problem of the human condition. A force that intelligent people must learn to recognize, navigate, and above all survive. This video is not about arrogance or superiority. It is about self-preservation, clarity, and wisdom in a world that often rewards noise over depth and confidence over understanding. If you appreciate deep reflections drawn from philosophy, psychology, and timeless wisdom, take a moment now to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, share this video with someone who needs it, and write your thoughts in the comments. What we will uncover here may challenge your beliefs, but it may also transform the way you understand life and human behavior. Schopenhauer observed something that remains painfully relevant today. Intelligent people suffer more, not because they are weak, but because they see more clearly. They perceive contradictions, hypocrisies, and absurdities that others pass by without noticing. While a shallow mind rests comfortably in simplistic explanations, the reflective mind wrestles with complexity. This awareness becomes a burden when intelligence is forced to coexist with stupidity that is loud, assertive, and socially validated. According to Schopenhauer, stupidity is not simply ignorance. Ignorance can be cured through learning. Stupidity, however, is resistant to correction. It is the inability or unwillingness to think critically, paired with an emotional attachment to one's own opinions. This is why arguing with stupid people feels so draining. They do not seek truth. They seek validation. And when their beliefs are threatened, they respond not with reason, but with aggression, mockery, or moral outrage. Think about how often you have tried to explain something obvious, logical, or well-supported, only to be met with hostility or ridicule. Have you noticed how facts rarely change minds when pride is involved? Schopenhauer warned that the greatest danger of stupidity lies in its confidence. A stupid person who doubts himself is mostly harmless. A stupid person who is convinced he is right becomes a source of chaos. Here is a question worth reflecting on. How many of your emotional wounds were caused not by evil people, but by people who simply could not understand the consequences of their actions? How often have you lowered your standards, silenced your thoughts, or doubted your intelligence just to maintain peace with those who could not meet you at your level of reasoning? Schopenhauer believed that society often empowers stupidity because it is comforting. Simple ideas are easier to accept. Loud certainty is more attractive than quiet doubt. This creates an environment where intelligent people are pressured to conform, to simplify themselves, to stop asking uncomfortable questions. Over time, this leads to frustration, isolation, and a deep sense of alienation. Yet Schopenhauer did not advocate arrogance or open contempt. On the contrary, he proposed a strategy rooted in realism. The intelligent person must learn discernment. Not every battle is worth fighting. Not every truth must be spoken. Wisdom lies not in proving others wrong, but in protecting one's inner peace and intellectual integrity. As you continue listening, you will begin to see why reacting emotionally to stupidity is one of the greatest mistakes intelligent people make. Later, we will uncover why silence can be more powerful than argument, and why distance is often the most compassionate and intelligent response of all. But before we reach that point, we must first understand why stupidity affects us so deeply, and why it seems to multiply in modern society. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, who drains your energy the most? Those who challenge you intellectually, or those who refuse to think at all? Write your thoughts in the comments. Your reflection may resonate with more people than you imagine. This is only the beginning. What comes next will reveal the psychological trap that intelligent people fall into when dealing with stupidity, and how Schopenhauer's insights can help you escape it without losing your humanity. The real problem begins when intelligent people assume that reason alone can bridge every gap. Schopenhauer warned that this belief is not only naive, but dangerous. Intelligence naturally seeks coherence, logic, and dialogue. It assumes that if an idea is explained clearly enough, it will be understood and accepted. But this assumption collapses when confronted with stupidity, not because the explanation is flawed, but because the listener lacks the inner structure required to receive it. Stupidity, in Schopenhauer's view, is deeply connected to the will. Human beings are not primarily rational creatures. They are driven by desires, fears, and emotional investments. Reason often serves these impulses rather than guiding them. A stupid person is not incapable of understanding facts. He is unwilling to let facts disturb his sense of certainty or self-importance. This is why logic feels threatening to him. It exposes limitations he refuses to acknowledge. This creates a psychological trap for intelligent people. They keep explaining, clarifying, justifying, believing that persistence will eventually lead to understanding. Instead, they become exhausted, misunderstood, and sometimes even resented. Schopenhauer observed that when reason confronts stupidity, it rarely enlightens. More often, it provokes hostility. The stupid person feels attacked, even when no attack was intended. Have you ever noticed how calm explanations are sometimes met with anger? How polite disagreement escalates into personal offense? This is not accidental. When a person lacks depth, disagreement feels like humiliation. The intelligent person becomes a mirror reflecting what the other cannot bear to see. And mirrors are often smashed. Schopenhauer believed that one of the greatest mistakes of intelligent individuals is overestimating the rational capacity of others. This overestimation leads to disappointment. Disappointment turns into bitterness. Bitterness slowly corrodes compassion. The tragedy is not that stupidity exists, but that intelligence suffers by expecting too much from it. Another crucial insight from Schopenhauer is that stupidity thrives in groups. Individually, a stupid person may seem manageable, but when stupidity is reinforced socially, it becomes aggressive and self-righteous. In crowds, people borrow confidence from one another, thought dissolves, emotion dominates. This is why mass movements, public outrage, and collective certainties often lack nuance or depth. Think about how often popular opinions are repeated without reflection, how slogans replace arguments, how complexity is dismissed as weakness. Schopenhauer saw this long before social media or modern mass culture. He understood that the majority is rarely wise and that truth is often lonely. This loneliness is one of the hidden burdens of intelligence. But here is the subtle danger. When intelligent people constantly confront stupidity, they risk becoming contemptuous. They begin to see others not as different, but as inferior. Schopenhauer cautioned against this internal shift. Contempt poisons the mind of the one who holds it. It ties your emotional state to the behavior of others. It makes you reactive instead of sovereign. So what is the alternative? If arguing fails, if explaining drains you, and if contempt corrupts you, what remains? Schopenhauer proposed something radical for his time: selective withdrawal. Not isolation from humanity, but conscious distance from unnecessary conflict. The intelligent person must choose where to invest attention, energy, and speech. Silence, in this sense, is not weakness. It is strategy. It is the recognition that not every mind is reachable and that your peace is worth more than proving a point. Schopenhauer believed that wisdom often consists in saying less, not more, observing instead of correcting, understanding instead of persuading. Ask yourself this honestly. How many arguments did you win but lost peace? How many times did you speak truth and feel emptier afterward? These experiences are not signs of failure. They are signals. Signals that intelligence must be guided by discernment, or it becomes self-destructive. In the next part, we will go deeper into the practical posture Schopenhauer believed intelligent people must adopt to protect their mental health. We will explore why emotional detachment is not coldness, why compassion does not require engagement, and why choosing your battles is not cowardice, but wisdom. If this perspective resonates with you, pause for a moment and reflect. In which situations would silence have served you better than explanation? Share your thoughts in the comments. At this point, Schopenhauer invites us to confront a difficult but liberating truth. The goal of intelligence is not to correct the world, but to remain intact within it. Many intelligent people exhaust themselves trying to elevate conversations, relationships, and environments that are fundamentally resistant to depth. This effort often comes from a hidden hope that being understood will bring relief, yet Schopenhauer saw that this hope, when misplaced, becomes a source of suffering. One of his most misunderstood ideas is emotional distance. Many assume this means becoming cold, indifferent, or detached from humanity. Schopenhauer meant the opposite. Emotional distance is not the absence of feeling, but the discipline of feeling wisely. It is the ability to care without entangling your inner state with the limitations of others. Stupid people, as Schopenhauer described them, are often governed by impulses rather than reflection. They react rather than respond. When intelligent people emotionally invest in such reactions, they surrender control of their peace. The mistake is not engaging with others, but allowing their irrationality to dictate your emotional rhythm. Think carefully about this. When someone misunderstands you, mocks nuance, or distorts your words, what actually hurts? Is it their opinion or your expectation that they should understand? Schopenhauer believed that suffering often arises not from reality itself, but from the gap between reality and our expectations of it. This insight changes everything. If you no longer expect depth from shallow minds, their behavior loses its power over you. You stop feeling personally attacked by what is impersonal. You stop trying to extract meaning from noise. This is not resignation, it is clarity. Schopenhauer also emphasized solitude as a necessity for intelligent people. Not constant isolation, but regular retreat. The intelligent mind requires silence to recalibrate. In solitude, you're no longer forced to translate your thoughts into simplified forms. You are no longer negotiating your intelligence to be socially acceptable. You're allowed to think fully. He famously wrote that a man can be himself only so long as he is alone. This does not mean rejecting society, but recognizing its limits. Society rewards conformity. It punishes depth that disrupts comfort. An intelligent person who never withdraws risks becoming fragmented, constantly adapting to others until he forgets his own voice. Another crucial aspect of dealing with stupidity is recognizing when not to explain yourself. Schopenhauer observed that intelligent people often feel compelled to justify their choices, values, and boundaries. This compulsion arises from a desire for harmony, but justification, when offered to those incapable of understanding, becomes self-betrayal. You do not owe clarity to those who distort. You do not owe explanation to those who listen only to reply. Silence, in these cases, is not avoidance. It is self-respect. Ask yourself something important. How often have you explained your intentions to people who had already decided to misunderstand you? How much energy have you spent defending yourself against projections that were never about you? These moments are invitations to withdraw your energy, not to intensify your effort. Schopenhauer also warned against the subtle seduction of superiority. When intelligence recognizes stupidity, it may feel tempted to dominate it intellectually, to win arguments, to expose flaws, to feel elevated. This temptation is dangerous. It binds your identity to comparison. It keeps you psychologically dependent on those you claim to rise above. True superiority, in Schopenhauer's sense, is independence. It is the ability to remain unmoved by provocation, to walk away without resentment, to observe without contempt. The intelligent person does not need to announce his intelligence. It reveals itself through restraint. As we move closer to the final and most powerful insight, everything begins to converge. Silence, distance, solitude, and restraint are not defenses against stupidity alone. They are tools for preserving clarity in a world that constantly pulls toward distraction and emotional chaos. Before we go further, reflect on this. Where in your life would fewer explanations and stronger boundaries bring peace? Write your thoughts in the comments and notice how many others share the same realization. At the deepest level of Schopenhauer's philosophy lies an insight that many intelligent people sense intuitively, but rarely articulate clearly. The true danger of stupidity is not that it surrounds you, but that it can slowly shape you if you are not vigilant. It tempts you into reaction, into constant explanation, into emotional entanglement. Over time, this erodes your clarity, your patience, and eventually, your joy. The final lesson is not about others at all. It is about guarding your inner world. Schopenhauer believed that inner peace is the highest form of intelligence. Not success, not recognition, not winning debates, but sovereignty over one's own mind. A person who cannot be provoked, who cannot be dragged into pointless conflict, who cannot be forced to explain himself to those unwilling to understand, possesses a rare form of power. This power is invisible, but it is transformative. The intelligent person must learn to recognize patterns. When you see that a conversation never evolves, when the same misunderstandings repeat, when logic is met with emotion again and again, that is not a challenge to overcome. It is a boundary to accept. Wisdom begins where futile effort ends. Schopenhauer did not romanticize humanity. He saw clearly that most people seek comfort, not truth. They prefer beliefs that flatter them, not ideas that demand self-examination. Once you accept this, a profound shift occurs. You stop trying to awaken everyone. You stop feeling responsible for other people's intellectual growth. You stop mistaking your clarity for a duty. This does not make you cruel. In fact, it allows compassion to arise naturally. When you understand that many people act from limitation rather than malice, resentment loosens its grip. Compassion, however, does not mean proximity. You can understand without engaging. You can wish well without participating. This is one of the most mature forms of wisdom Schopenhauer offers. The most powerful realization is this: stupidity cannot be defeated through confrontation, but it can be rendered harmless through non-participation. When you stop feeding it attention, emotion, and energy, it loses its influence over you. Many conflicts survive only because intelligent people keep trying to resolve what was never meant to be resolved. Schopenhauer's philosophy teaches that the intelligent person must live selectively. Selective with conversations, selective with relationships, selective with emotional investment. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Not every opinion deserves a response. Not every misunderstanding deserves clarification. This selectivity is not elitism. It is self-knowledge. Just as you would not pour clean water into a broken vessel, you should not pour clarity into a mind that cannot hold it. Doing so only depletes you. Another profound insight emerges here. The more intelligent you are, the more responsibility you have toward yourself. Not toward convincing others, but toward preserving your depth. A shallow environment can flatten even the sharpest mind if it is constantly exposed without protection. Schopenhauer believed that most suffering comes not from what happens to us, but from how deeply we entangle ourselves with what should never have mattered. When you learn to detach from pointless disputes, your energy returns, your thinking sharpens, your emotional life stabilizes. Notice how peace changes your perception. You no longer see stupidity as an enemy. You see it as a condition, one that exists, one that persists, but one that no longer dictates your reactions. This shift is the true victory. Ask yourself this final question. What if your greatest strength was not your intelligence, but your ability to remain undisturbed? What if mastery of life had less to do with control over others and more to do with control over your own attention? Schopenhauer's message is clear. The wise person does not fight the world as it is. He understands it, accepts its limits, and chooses his place within it carefully. He speaks when speech has meaning. He remains silent when silence preserves dignity. He withdraws not out of fear but out of clarity. If this perspective changed the way you see your frustrations, your relationships, or yourself, share that realization in the comments. Your insight may help someone else feel less alone in their experience. Remember this: intelligence is not proven by how much you explain, but by how little you need to. Inner peace is not found by correcting the world, but by refusing to let its noise live inside you. And that is the quiet power Schopenhauer believed every intelligent person must learn to cultivate. As this journey comes to its natural conclusion, Schopenhauer leaves us with a perspective that feels almost paradoxical in a world obsessed with expression. True intelligence does not shout. It does not chase validation. It does not demand to be understood by everyone. It moves quietly, observing patterns, conserving energy, and choosing depth over noise. One of the most difficult lessons for intelligent people is accepting that being misunderstood is often the price of clarity. When you think deeply, you step outside the familiar frameworks that many rely on for comfort. Your silence may be misread as arrogance. Your distance may be labeled coldness. Your restraint may be seen as weakness. Schopenhauer would say this is the final test of wisdom, remaining faithful to your inner truth, even when it is misinterpreted. There is a profound freedom in realizing that you do not need to correct every falsehood you encounter. You do not need to educate every mind you meet. You do not need to defend your intelligence against those who measure worth by volume rather than insight. The moment you release this burden, life becomes lighter. Schopenhauer understood that peace is fragile in a world driven by impulse. That is why he urged intelligent people to build an inner refuge, a place untouched by ignorance, untouched by provocation, untouched by the endless demand to react. This refuge is not escapism. It is where clarity is protected, so it can be used meaningfully when it truly matters. When you stop engaging in pointless disputes, something remarkable happens. You begin to see more clearly who is worth your time. Conversations deepen, relationships become fewer but more authentic. Your words gain weight because they are no longer scattered. Silence becomes intentional rather than defensive. The ultimate wisdom, according to Schopenhauer, is alignment. Alignment between what you know, how you live, and where you invest yourself. When this alignment is achieved, stupidity loses its emotional grip. It may still exist around you, but it no longer exists within you. Reflect on your own life. Where have you been over-explaining? Where have you been hoping for understanding from those who are not capable of offering it? Where have you confused engagement with effectiveness? These reflections are not judgments. They are invitations to reclaim your energy. Schopenhauer's philosophy is not optimistic, but it is honest. He does not promise a world free of foolishness. He offers something far more valuable, a way to remain whole within it, a way to preserve depth without becoming bitter, a way to be intelligent without becoming lonely. If there is one final truth to carry forward, it is this: your peace is more valuable than your need to be right. Your clarity is more precious than your need to be heard. And your inner world deserves protection, especially in a society that rarely understands its value. If this video helped you see your experiences through a new lens, let others know by sharing it. Leave your reflection in the comments and continue this journey of thought, restraint, and self-mastery with us, because in the end, as Schopenhauer teaches, the highest intelligence is not found in conquering others, but in mastering oneself. Thanks for looking.